Well, it's been a while since I made a video, so I thought I would let everybody know what I've been doing past couple months. So as you can see, it's starting to get a little bit wet out here, and it's not really the best weather to be driving a nice Camaro in. So all I'm waiting for is for ODOT to throw down some magnesium chloride or salt or whatever they're going to use this year, and I won't be driving the car anymore because I absolutely refuse to drive in that garbage. But car's a little dirty. I got caught out when it was sprinkling a little bit. Got some dirt on it, so I'm gonna have to wash it. But well, let me show you what I've been up to lately. You might find it interesting. So I ended up buying the HP Tuners MPVI2. This is the standard version. Seems to work pretty well. I didn't bother to get the Pro Link because all I was concerned about was logging wideband, and there is a way to do that without having the Pro Link for another 250 bucks. So on the back of my wideband, there's 4 wires: a blue, a white, a red, and a black. The red and the black are, just positive power and ground. The white is 5 volts out, and the blue is serial out. And that would go to pin number 2 on the DB9. Pin number 5 would go to ground, and from what I'm understanding, the same ground as what the power's using, which is what I did. So I just have this coming out and going to here. Then I had to buy a serial to USB cable, and what that does is that just plugs into one of the ports here. This is COM1, and then the output from here, this just goes into your OBD2 port, and the cable that comes along with that plugs into the other one, and I'm able to set up some channels. And you got to kind of monkey with it a little bit. You're gonna really have to read up. It's nothing that I'm gonna be able to make an instructional video on. So even if I could, I don't want to be responsible for somebody hurting their car. So anyway, so this is the interface. This is the actual tuning portion, and as you can see, there's all kinds of junk in here. So this is actually my air-fuel ratio map. So you can see it's okay. This is my dynamic airflow tune. So it uses speed density airflow up to 2100 RPM and then changes over to the mass airflow sensor. So when I had this tuned at Wong's, he tuned only the MAF. And when I set up the wideband and also looked at the long-term fuel trims, I noticed that my long-term fuel trims were really pretty high. He never did anything with them, which, I wouldn't expect him to with the MAF only tune. I wanted it a little bit better, so I went out and I tuned this portion, and it's doing a little bit better. Alright, so this was one tune that I did. You can see I'm logging for long-term fuel trims, and that's what that is there. So at this particular time, I'm going 62 miles an hour, 1700 RPM, and my air-fuel ratio in lambda is about stoic, looking pretty good. So, of course, I'm in closed loop. That's why I'm tuning for long-term fuel trim. So you can see I'm off a little bit, anywhere between 3% and -5%. And the minuses shows that it's subtracting fuel. That's why it's a green, because it's rich. And the red is where it's adding fuel, and there it's bouncing between 1% and 2%, because it's lean in that RPM and under that pressure. So the further you get down, the more load you would have on the car. And of course, the further you get this way, the higher the engine speed is. So good long-term fuel trims would be at 0. 2% still okay, so you can see this still isn't quite tuned up. So this was just one of the tunes that I had. I just wanted to show you guys and kind of give you an idea of what's involved. It's taken me a couple months just to get a basic understanding, and that's about all I have. So there's a lot to understand when tuning a car. Definitely not for the faint of heart. So you can blow up the car. I pulled 4 degrees of timing off of the mass airflow tune before I failed the mass airflow and failed the dynamic airflow in order to get a speed density tune from my table. So took some of that out. I left power enrichment on just as a safety, but you know, when you do this, you're not flooring the gas, you're easing into it. You want to try to get stoic in every one of those cells, and this is just for drivability. That's all I'm doing. This is idle and mid-range. So I'm not tuning this for wide open throttle. I actually did this tune for dynamic airflow, which is how this car comes from the factory. So it's supposed to run off that yellow and orange table up to, I think, 3,800 RPM. And then GM has it transitioning over to the mass airflow sensor for its fueling. So the tune that I got from Wong's was completely mass airflow, and it ran great. It's just the speed density table itself was about 12% rich across the board. Now I'm within 1.5%. So I just wanted it closer. It runs fine on his tune. In fact, it runs really good. Great idle. It does run a little bit rich, but it's stoic because the long-term fuel trims are adjusting for that. So this was mainly for my enjoyment, to understand how to tune a car, what's involved with tuning a car, and the basics took me a couple months just to kind of understand the definitions, the terminologies, what things do, what not to do so you don't blow the car up, and a little bit of trial and error. Everything I did very small increments, would go out, test the car, and if the car didn't like it, I didn't advance on that portion. I either read about it or I just abandoned it because it wasn't what I was really wanting to do. So it's been fun. Like I said, it's starting to rain, it's starting to get ugly outside, so probably done messing around with the tune for now. Right now it has a dynamic airflow tune in, so it runs off that table up until about 2100 RPM and then switches over to mass airflow. I was hoping to get the low speed drivability smoothed out a little bit, and seems to do a little bit better. So we're just going to keep that tune in there. So it's my tune down low, and then the dyno tune up above 2100 RPM. So, and then of course power enrichment was still from the MAF tune, and that still works fine. It is still a little bit rich, but car's running good. So come summertime, spring, when it warms up and it's not 30 degrees out, I'm going to retune it for the bottom, for the dynamic side, and because it would change just off the temperature. Not much, but I'm going to play with that when that time comes. So, well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. I'll probably be making more videos, so take care, and we'll talk to you soon.